And for more on the situation in Ukraine, as well as in the new round of sanctions against Russia, I'm joined by Ivan Eland. He's director of the Center on Peace and Liberty at the Independent Institute. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Want to get to that crash site in just a few moments, but first want to ask you about this new round of sanctions by the EU. Russia's ambassador to the EU says, quote, its economy will survive.
Well, I think this is a new coordinated round, and I think it's much more severe than the other rounds because they're attacking the defense, the financial, and the oil industries. But most cases, it's true. Over time, the target of sanctions usually finds a way to evade them and that sort of thing. You can raise the prices or the costs to the target country, but sealing off trade in a globalized world or finance, keeping them from getting finance, it's difficult.
And now some of Vladimir Putin's closest associates are also targeted.
Yes, yes. And I think that's, these individual sanctions are more or less symbolic. But this is different because now we're starting to see sector-wide, or not necessarily sector-wide, but sanctions aimed at particular sectors of the economy that are important to Russia.
What do you think is happening at the Kremlin behind the scenes as this is taking place? And how do you think Russia will respond to this?
Well, I think even in an autocratic society like Putin's, he's under pressure from business people to relent. But I think a lot of times nationalism trumps even economics. And the problem is also, whenever you put sanctions on, it's mostly symbolic, even if you put on sanctions that are designed to bite a little bit, because economics is a two-way street. Unlike warfare, it's a zero-sum game. Economics, if you put sanctions on Russia, Europe also suffers because they have a lot of trade and finance. So the Europeans have made these sort of forced show in that they're trying to minimize the effects on them. But when they do that, it also minimizes the effects on the target.
We've heard this term being tossed around the last day or so, Cold War. Do you think Russia and the West are headed to another Cold War?
No, I don't. I think in the long term, we see realpolitik take over. And very frankly, China is rising, and I think Russia and the United States are both, nervous about that. Whether that's valid or not, I think you'll see in the long term Russia and the United States probably won't have a perfect relationship, probably still be snags, but I think in the long term their interests seem to align to balance the China.
Turning now to the situation in Ukraine, it's been 2 weeks now since that airplane went down. Do you think international investigators will ever get access to the site like they're asking for so they can get what they need to continue their investigation?
Well, it's in the middle of a war, and as I understand it, the war zone's pretty close to there. And I also think the site has been, it's not pristine anymore, so people have trampled through it, taken away things or whatever. So I think, the site is probably compromised to some extent, but on the other hand, that they may still be able to piece some data together.
All right, Ivan Eland, as always, we appreciate your time. Thanks so much for joining us.